It's a beautiful bacon day, Cookie Crusaders. Today we're going to be testing out the PvP team with Rye and Milk and the other magic candy users. But first we're going to go ahead and dive into what the new magic candies can do. So Rye Cookie, you already know the base description, but the new things is the cookie's attack speed is increased greatly for a given period of time. Enemies hit by regular attacks and skill attacks will be burned. So this is a new debuff. Twin pistol shots plus 2 bonus shots, 12 shots total. Bonus skill damage of 14.2%. Regular attacks cause burn with 50% chance, so it's not a guarantee. Regular attack burn damage, 59.4% per 1 second over 8 seconds total. Skill attack burn damage, 77.2% per 1 second over 16 seconds. So every time your skill goes off, the more burn damage you're going to do. So an interesting way to position the setup with Rye is having high cooldown so that you can get that skill to activate as many times as possible, but you also still want a lot of damage. So you can either rely on the burn or you can rely on the attack itself. There's a couple different ways to position that. So the plus 10 skill candy is going to be ally attack speed 20% for 7 seconds. If you get it to level 20, 22.5, and level 30, 25% total. So just the plus 10 level and above, Rye is just increasing your allies' attack speed. And it's a super helpful thing, and it's going to make for some interesting team iterations. Now, let's go to Milk Cookie and look at that one. Now for here, the healing is 37.6% of the damage blocked with the shield. So it's not a 1-for-1 recovery. So if you take 100,000 health of damage, you're not getting 100k health of healing for the skill of the magic candy. Instead, you'd be getting like 37,000 in that instance. Bonus skill damage, 86.3%. So the increased damage has been buffed as well. And there were some changes to their stats additionally to help bring them into the fold to make them a little bit more viable as well. Debuff resistance of self, 10.7% for 10 seconds. The level 10 effect. Milk Cookie deals more damage with regular attacks. True damage relative to max HP, 1%. Damage to others that are not cookies, 20%. So in PvE, Milk's going to be dealing true damage. So that means Milk's going to be very helpful in a lot of hard situations where there's damage resistance, where there's just good setups. Milk's going to be really good for that reason. To cookies, it's only going to be 1% true damage, but 1% of their health still being dealt, that's pretty good. That's still good. So I'm very excited about that. And then once you get it to a higher point, if you get it all the way to level 30, you can do 1.5% true damage to cookies and 30% of the attack to non-cookies. So that's pretty nice too. So what we're going to do is we're going to take that team into the arena. We're going to use Peanuts on these two just for the highest health measure right now, because we want to see how well they handle against the incoming waves, and we want to really showcase the healing on Milk, and that's why we're running the Peanuts. Granted, you could probably run damage resistance or you could run some other stuff, and that is 100% an option, but the damage is already being reduced for the taunt ability, which has been adjusted now too, and so for that reason we're running it with an HP setup instead. We're running critical damage for Espresso, searing attack damage for Rye, and searing attack damage for Vampire. So let's give it a shot and see what we run into. Okay. So just to start out, high damage from the enemy team. Understandably, we're not necessarily living because we're missing damage resistance on a few of our cookies. And that's okay. We're just testing 5 magic candy users to see if they work together as a team blend. Maybe with damage resistance they would have an option to do so. we'll try a couple different changes and iterations. So let's change the attack speed. Let's go with the insignia and give that a shot. And then if this still doesn't work, we'll take out one Magic Candy user for Cream Unicorn, because Cream Unicorn's an amazing healer, and I think that that might bridge the gap against some of these meta teams. And I think what we'll do is we'll probably take out Purple Yam, just because we don't want to push our targets away from Rye Cookie, and we don't want targets being pushed away from Vampire either. Plus the Espresso interruption skill power, we don't want that getting pushed out as well. So I think Yam will be our replacement if we do end up replacing. With the insignia, we are doing a lot better. We still lose a good amount of our team, but we are able to compete. It is down to Yam in the end versus a Vampire, so that's a tough sell. But yet again, the insignia is going to help. Plus Yam can self-heal, so that's going to be helpful as well. So we do take the win, just barely, but we do take it. Let's look at the stats and see what can be improved on. So Yam's doing the best as far as damage, as well as Espresso. Rye is doing pretty good, along with Vampire, but they did die off pretty fast. Damage received is definitely in the ballpark for Milk, so Milk's taking most of that damage. And then healing was decent for Milk. Healing's much better on Yam. So right now, I'll need to tweak around with the settings and play around with the potentials and possibilities. I'm sure Milk has way more potential. I just need to find the right configuration to run Milk properly. So for now that you've seen the 5 Magic Candy team setup, we're going to go ahead and change one person. And for now, we're just going to take out Milk, because Yam was doing a pretty good job in the front there. And we're actually going to test one of the new treasures, the Sacred Fork. Now, I only got it to level 3. It's a Guild Gotcha treasure. And at level 3, what it does is, imbued with Sacred Power, the fork deals additional damage equal to 4.3% of each cookie's attack with each of their regular and skill attacks. Boss enemies receive additional damage. So obviously this is going to be better for bosses. We'll cover that in another video. I definitely already have teams to show you for the bosses, but right now this is the focus. So the fork we're just going to use just to get a little bit extra damage out and see if it makes a difference, because it may not seem like it's going to make a difference, but 4.3% of every single attack, including skills, that can scale very quickly. So let's go ahead and send it into battle and see what we get. With the arena season being reset, it's hard to gauge what type of opponents we're fighting, so we're just sending at everybody and hoping they're relatively fightable for whatever we're running against. So Espresso and Rye, just lacking that damage resistance, weren't really able to keep up against the enemy team. Overall, the damage is pretty good from our side, but their healing is just well outputting against what we have going, so that did not end up working. And Rye was actually not able to keep up for this setup either. So if we look at this, no one really was able to do great damage. There wasn't really enough synergy to push it forward. So my analysis is that I don't think Rye Cookie is set up to work with other Magic Candy users. I think that instead Rye and Milk are going to be better in specific other teams. We can do the attack speed and try to see if that makes a big difference, but it looks like Rye and Milk are not necessarily just going to beef up the Magic Candy team to be very overpowered, and that's okay. Instead, they're just going to be good in their own iterations of teams. So I will showcase what teams those are, because I've got some good ideas for the attack speed teams, got some good frontal teams with Milk, so there's definitely some team ideas there. But I do not think that Rye Cookie and Milk are still bad or that they don't fit in PvP. I think that you need to build specific iterations to work with them to make them really shine and showcase. So full Magic Candy team, does it work? I don't think it does for PvP. Does it work for other modes? Sure, you could probably make it work really well. But as far as just a PvP 5 Magic Candy team, I do not think that that's going to be a viable setup. And so I wanted to show you guys that here, that it is something you can use as a defense team if you want to throw people off. It's something you can use as a quirky, like, beatdown of low teams. But as far as a high meta competitive team, it's not going to go ahead and fit the bill for right now. Thank you so much for stopping by and watching, and please be prepared for many videos to come out in a good fashion and a good order so that you guys have time to digest and process everything. I love all your opinions and feedback in the comments of what you think of the update, of what's your favorite part, what your favorite cookies are. I want to hear it all. Thank you again for stopping by, and have a wonderful day.